Is Jesus Christ the only way to God? He did say, I am the way, the life, and the truth. No one finds the Father, goes to the Father, except through me. So how do we deal with that? I'm speaking, of course, to those who are probably raised as Christians and who, when it comes to the yogic path and other religions, have a certain hesitation because they've been taught that Jesus is the only way. Let me quote a sentence from the first chapter of the Gospel of John. And as many as received him, meaning Jesus, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God. Elsewhere in the Gospels, Jesus says, and I go to my Father, and you will do things such as I have done, and even greater things, or words to that effect. Jesus didn't come to show off who he was. He came to show us who we were. Remember when he asked, who do men say I am? Well, that sounds like it's sort of self-centered, but the answer to that question answers the same question for us. Who am I? Which is the greatest question of all. The question we've all been asked to ask down through the ages, east and west. Jesus had a divine nature, and he had a human nature. Now, in the history of Jesus and his teachings in Christianity, what became Christianity, there wasn't any other question of other saviors. It just didn't arise. Okay? So for almost 2,000 years, this question, is Jesus the only way, had only one answer, at least to people in Christianity. So it's a perfectly fair question to ask. But times are a-changing. The world is, of course, much smaller, and we day to day rub elbows or whatever one rubs with Hindus and Muslims and Buddhists and so forth. So asking that question has to be asked again. And the answer is changing. In India, it has been taught that down through the ages, when the need arises, when the soul call comes from people for help, for divine help, such a one as a Jesus Christ incarnates into human form. There have been many such incarnations called avatars in Sanskrit, of which Jesus is one. In fact, though I don't have time to get into it, if you study the Gospels carefully, you will see hints of reincarnation. Jesus called out to Elijah on the cross. Jesus met Moses and Elijah on the Mount Tabor, Mount of Transfiguration. By intuitive perception and a careful reading of the Gospels, when the disciples who finally understood that Jesus was the Messiah, they were puzzled because the Old Testament says that Elijah would return. There would be somebody in the power and spirit of Elijah, the very last words of the Old Testament, to pave the way for the Lord, for the Messiah. And so the disciples asked, well, my goodness, where's Elijah? Jesus' answer is right there in the Bible. He said he's come already, but they knew him not. And then it says the disciples understood that he was speaking of John the Baptist. There is reason to believe that Jesus in a prior life was Elisha, and that his guru was Elijah. But that's a longer story. Suffice to say that Jesus is not the only way in a human terms, that the souls have, as if from the dawn of creation, a connection with that Savior who will uplift them and redeem them into final liberation, into God realization, union with the divine. Not just the temporary stopping place of heaven, but the eternal beatitude of union with the Creator. And so Jesus isn't the one. There are great families of souls who have other saviors. And I know that's difficult for some Christians to accept. But that acceptance can only come intuitively. It can't be simply believed in as a dogma. And there are millions of people, Christians, who feel that intuitive recognition of Buddha and Rama and Krishna, and for us in this modern age, Yogananda and his lineage are also. There is no one that's above them all. Any soul who have achieved God realization, whether he returns as an avatar or not, whether an avatar has a public mission or not, have achieved the final goal and are all on the same level.